The name of this section, I believe, is called Part 2, Digital Strategies, the Core Role of CRM. So I'm going to kind of do this a little differently. I'm taking the bottom of this, okay, and I'm looking at the picture differently. This picture is a refinement of that picture. I started there and then I refined it. But this is still correct. So that's the CRM data structure, database, the application that I talked about. By the way, this one is I write it down, January 2016 column. It's in your books, so if you want to read it, you can. So I sat back and said, how important is CRM? That's what I asked myself. And I came out, as a good British person would say, and I said it's bloody important. And it's bloody important for lots of reasons that have become, hopefully, very apparent as we move on. So this kind of starts out with why I wrote this book. I actually wrote it 4 years ago. It was only published last year, but I held it back by a couple of years because I was committed to proving that my crazy idea actually made sense. And that was that we could integrate social media and CRM and engage customers better. And if you read the book, there's many case studies of companies like ExxonMobil that have done this brilliantly right now. But 4 years ago, they hadn't completed it. So what I want to do is I want to come back to here, and I want to just look at this sliver, social media and CRM, as an example of how digital strategy works and how we gather information, how we use it to engage customers. I could do the same presentation on any of those or all of those, we just don't have the time. So I sat back in Bethesda, Maryland, 4 miles up the road. I remember it was a very nice day. I had sailed the weekend before. I was feeling good. And I asked myself this question. Well, you see the question. How clearly do we really know our customers? Are they in focus? Do we really understand from a sales side, a support side, a customer experience side, a product needs side? Do we really see our customers through their lens? And I said, what would be the risk if we didn't understand them completely? And we went about making decisions and trying new products and services, but didn't really think the whole thing through. What if we had a clear focus on the customer? Would that help us drive results? So these are like hypothetical questions that have an obvious answer. You know, silly boy, of course it would. Which led me to come up with this concept of social CRM. And it's really simple. The intersection of social media and CRM. It's going to complicate the matter. And my thinking was, there are 2 parts of a full glass. One part of it is CRM, which focuses, not entirely, but still too much on the transactional side of business. Because more and more we're seeing ERP systems feed data into CRM. You kind of know what you did and what's important. There's some non-transactional. What did you complain about? What did you say you'd like for marketing? You know, there's other things that come in, but it's still transactionally focused. The social media side is attitudinally focused. Do you like doing business with Jack? Do you like doing business with, micro centers? Do you like doing business with your respective company? I don't know how many of you do that and think about that. And that's really important. Is it nice to do business with your companies? So that was where I was thinking, okay? And then I said if we could put the 2 together, we'd have a full glass and life would be good. But before I get ahead of myself, let me just make some quick definitions. I want to build this up, and then you'll see how the integration worked with the digital strategy. So CRM, make sure we're all clear, real simple. It's not a technology. It's a mindset, a business approach. It's the way we do business. I've had fantastic companies do fantastic things with CRM over the years. They put into place good customer-facing business processes, both internal processes, how you work together in departments of sales and marketing, customer service and finance and shipping and the things that touch the customer, as well as external-facing processes, how we allow the customer to engage with us. So we put those processes in place. We spend a boatload of time, money, and effort to make sure that people are trained on the processes and feel they're of relevance and value. Put into place the governance structure, the training, the communication, etc. When we have good customer-facing processes that people have bought into, only then would we ever be ready to talk about a technology tool called CRM. And what does it do? It drives efficiency into the processes that people have bought into. And we do that to maximize relationships with all customers, all the way down the distribution channel, distributor, wholesaler, retailer, store outlet, whatever you use as a distribution channel. Which raises the issue of the people, process, technology paradigm in part one that I referred to and said I'd come back to it in part two. 80% of the success of a CRM initiative has nothing to do with the tool. 30% is the good processes, 50% is the people, 20% is the technology. We have Finnish people in this room, and it's the only story I will tell you where technology screwed up a project. And I was in Rovaniemi, which is way the hell up north in the Arctic Circle, your Finnish friends will tell you. And I was with a company called Sisu. They make trucks and things in the boatyards. It's a wonderful company. And the guy, by the way, the salesman, he traveled with a piece of, I think it was elk or meat in his trunk of his car. It was frozen. It's very cold. I said, well, he was very proud to show me this. I said, we have a raw piece of meat. Oh, he said, Bart, if the carver broke down here, you'd have to chew on that meat just to stay alive. It was that cold up in Rovaniemi. I know these guys know what I'm talking about. So in that particular case, they used an AS400 to show you how many years ago, and it screwed up the CRM system and it failed. That's the only time in the world I've ever seen in 31 years, hundreds of implementations. The technology's fine. It's very fine. There's no one leader. It's which leader fits what you need. The technology's fine. It screws up because people didn't buy into it. It screws up because people weren't properly trained. They weren't brought up to change management ladder. They didn't see the value of how it would help them. And they were told you have to do it, and they said yes. And when they said put in the information, they put X's and O's, and they said, I've done what you told me, now let me move on to my life. So we have to make sure we get that paradigm right. Second part of CRM is this concept of the need to seamlessly integrate different parts of the organization that touch the customer. And that brings me to the profile. And this is really important, at least to me it's really important. You put the customer in the center. This is Cameron. It's an oil field services company out of Texas. So we put ExxonMobil inside there, or we put BP, or we put Shell, or whatever company you want. That's in the middle of the, and by the way, this is a daisy. Okay? And a daisy has petals on it, right? Remember the petals? The customer is the center. And what we do is we bring information into the petals that are relevant to that customer. What's the name and address of the customer? How do they like to be contacted? Anything important I need to know about that customer? What's the last activity we had that customer? What did they purchase? What are they worth to us? What new opportunities? Any quotes that are outstanding? Any service issues? New product ideas, etc. This is a schema. This is not correct for your business. It's just a concept. Takes about 12 to 18 months to build a comprehensive profile. Why? Because you can't give too much information at any one time to somebody learning something. It's overwhelming. Most of you have much of this information, all of this information in your company on Post-its and in date timers and Excel spreadsheets and CRM systems or elsewhere. But we haven't pulled it together into a profile, so whether it's a sales guy or the marketing gal or the service or whatever, they all get on the same system. A customer calls, they have a good understanding of that customer. We have a seamless integration across customer-facing functions. Let me reiterate this clearly. A failure to put into place a good profile dooms your CRM for success. Let me say that differently. If you don't do your profile right, you haven't a chance in hell to implement a digital strategy. Is that message crystal clear? Okay, good. So that's the second part of the definition. The third part, believe it or not, this definition I wrote in 1986. The only problem is the third part that I've changed. And now it says CRM, I have to even read this now, but increasingly leverages the digital tools, including the internet and social media. In 1986 it said, I think it said, CRM increasingly leverages the internet, because that was in the infancy. But today that's just a tool amongst many. And CRM increasingly leverages it. And here's the reason why. We live in the now world. It's really quite amazing to think about the transformation of the last 20 years. If our CRM is not addressing the needs of the now customer, sanavata. Okay, that's CRM definition. Let's move on to social. And again, there's no earth-shattering thoughts here. So online communities that people use, both public and private, I think private's very important, whereby customers or prospects get information from each other, they get opinions, they share ideas, directly from each other rather than from organizations. You remember the figure, what was it, 68% have made a decision, don't even care what the company has said, or the salesperson. People will believe other people blindly, whether they're right or wrong, because they said it and the company didn't. This is a real risk, but that's the world we live in. And then you look at these figures. Social media generates about double the marketing leads of a trade show, of telemarketing, or web ads. Social media, 71% of all consumers recommend brands on social media. 68% of online users check out a company on social media prior to making the purchase. So now let's put the two together. Let's put CRM and social CRM together, and that is what this book is all about. You don't even have to read it, just look at these 4 slides. I told you a book is about a picture, here's the picture, but I'm going to build this one slowly. So there's your private and public communities. The public are the Twitters and the Facebooks, and I've already alluded to the fact they're great for branding and reinforcing messages to large masses. There's your private communities, they're fantastic for bringing customers in, invitation only, becoming a little more intimate in sharing information. Let me drive the point home. We created the mobile SHC Club, 1,800 lubrication engineers around the world. It's in Russian and Chinese, in German and Spanish and in English. And these guys and gals just love to talk to each other, share stories, ask expert advice, peer-to-peer exchange. They love the exclusivity of the club. Things happen at the mobile SHC Club before they happen elsewhere. We have an inability to take Facebook to China. It's not allowed. ExxonMobil does a large portion of their business in China. Therefore, public no-go. We still have public stuff on Facebook about mobile industrial lubricant products. But we take those public sites and we identify somebody that we think is a good candidate, not a competitor, and not a wise guy. We invite them to our private community and they join a group of people that love to talk about industrial lubricants. So that's how we use the public sites. And in the private site, we have the ability, because they've signed in and said, you have my name and my address, and you validated it, and I give you permission to take information that I talk about, harvest it, scrape it digitally, and use it as you see appropriate here at ExxonMobil to make better products and services. Everybody with me? That's step one. We listen to what people say on public and private communities. Step number two, we monitor and filter what they say because it can become overwhelming. Remember we talked about digital stuff, traffic, noise, bits and bytes. And there's a lot of very good tools that help you understand what's important, but I'll give you the challenge. So Bart is fairly loyal to Marriott. If you didn't know, Marriott's in Bethesda, Maryland, corporate headquarters. They're a customer of mine. I live in Bethesda, so it's a very nice opportunity. There's two sides to Bart. There's Bart the business guy, and when I travel, I like to stay at reasonably nice places. Marriott has nice properties all the way up to Ritz-Carlton. And that's Bart the businessman. And then there's Bart the dad of two pain-in-the-ass 16 and 18-year-old kids, whom we all love to death, wonderful kids, but pain in the ass. And when we travel, let's say we go skiing in Montana, in Bozeman, Montana, we stay at a residence inn. Why? Because we can cook food and we can hang around after a ski day and shoot the bull, and it's comfortable. So when I call Marriott Corporation, or if you look at what I say about Marriott, which Bart are we talking to? Bart the businessman or Bart the dad of two kids and wife? So I don't want to really learn about, en masse, what do you think of Marriott? That's not terribly relevant. It's nice to know, not need to know. I want to know whether it's the individual customer Bart, and then I want to know if it's Bart as a traveling businessman or Bart as a family guy. That's the level we have to get down to, and that's what these tools do, attempt to do. That's a very good idea, Tracy. Thank you. Now, it comes as no surprise to you as we monitor information, we listen, and we monitor and filter. We We scrape and harvest it and drop it down into our CRM system. Now, if I'm not clear, there's the picture. Same profile, new pedal. Social media insight. Let me go back and make sure I'm clear. Brand and get information out, invite into private community, get intimate, get insight, filter, drop into profile. Because once it's in the profile and we apply the data analytical tools, then in step number 4 we can engage the customer through the channels that are relevant and important to them. Everybody with me? So this is a good example, at least from my perspective, of how you integrate insight coming from, in this particular case, this pedal, this pillar, into my CRM. I can do the same for the other 3, by the way, but we don't have the time. And once we serve it up, the minestre, we put it in the minestrone, we turn it, we look at it, we taste it, we get back out to the customer with something irrelevant. So that's what the book is. Now let me give you some examples, because I hate theory, I like practice. So let's go through 4 examples. Marriott Corporation do a fantastic job at listening. They spend a lot of money on it. Public, they don't really, one of the problems in the industry right now is the tools tend to be for public communities, not private communities. But here's the example, it's a real life story, and by the way, that's this quadrant up in here. Las Vegas, newlywed couple, arrives to a beautiful hotel, Ritz-Carlton in Las Vegas, check in. For those of you that know Ritz-Carlton, it's a bit British kind of origin, beautiful wood paneling, fireplaces, lovely furniture, a very nice and warm environment. Newlywed gets into the hotel room, the bride tweets to her friends, "We've arrived, exclamation point, god-awful room, looks like my grandfather's room." Marriott picks that up about 8 minutes later through their listening device. Goes to the front desk of the hotel. They talk amongst themselves and knock on the door of the newlyweds and say, we've been sitting downstairs thinking about newlywed, Las Vegas, the Strip. We're thinking of the Las Vegas Strip, for those that don't know Las Vegas, could come out wrong, the Strip. And we're thinking, maybe you want something modern and cool overlooking the Strip and having, a jacuzzi and glass windows, and just thought might be better, so we'd like to move your room. Oh, I said, really? Yeah, so they moved the room, and within 2 minutes, the bride writes another tweet. Unbelievable. Like they read my mind, awesome company, Ritz-Carlton rocks. That's a true story. And that's the power of this. Second example I'd like to share with you about, I've already kind of talked about it, and that's the ExxonMobil SAC Club. Nothing at ExxonMobil happens quickly. There are just, and by the way, if I wasn't clear, that's a B2C example. Okay, this is a B2B to C example. Nothing happens quickly because they're a really great company. I've had it for 28 years. Tremendous leadership, tremendous research and development, very structured management style, very strict on processes, very clear on how technology can be used. It's just a wonderful company to work with. So, with many of my good customers, and I consider ExxonMobil a good customer, I'm an ideas guy, so I trouble my customers with ideas every few years. It comes into my brain, I think it really makes sense, and my ability to remain in business is dependent upon whether these ideas make sense. Because when you're dealing with a senior executive, you get basically one shot, and if they think you're nuts, they throw you out. This has happened to me many times. But this time I went around to ExxonMobil after 28 years, and I said, look, we got to get you into the digital world. They all said, like you, what's the digital world part? And I brought them through a little presentation. And long story short, 3 years later, we created the mobile SAC. 1,757 engineers. I just learned that this morning. It's a new statistic. Get on the website on a regular basis. They access both technical and product expertise. We have an Ask the Expert question. They get the quickest way to get an answer to a question in ExxonMobil is not through the technical help desk, not through the ExxonMobil SAC Club. It's become the #1 place where you get questions answered. You share insight with other lubrication engineers. That's called peer-to-peer exchange. They love to do that. The Finn with the Chinese with the Mexican with the American, and the American with the New Zealand. They go, I didn't realize that happened to those countries too. Oh, that's a very interesting approach you're taking. Maybe we should think about that in our country. They love the exclusivity of the club. They engage digitally with ExxonMobil to ready for the millennial, right? That's the world. And here's the kicker. For those distributors, that's the B2B, that work on the ExxonMobil, that belong to the ExxonMobil Mobility Club, for those customers, that's the lubrication engineer in the factories, that's the B2C, so B2B to C, that participated in the community, a 30% lift in 2015 in sales versus non-members of the community. We listen. I run the project for my people, so I know it very well. We listen, we harvest, and we take the information. We listen, we harvest, and we take the information, put it to CRM, and then it goes out to the sales guys, gals, service, marketing. We practice what we're talking. Third area, I took Johnson Controls and other customers of ours, and by the way, I should have mentioned at the beginning, all of these are works in progress. I mean, they're real stories, real customers, real, I have no liberty to exaggerate in any way, but they're all works in progress. I'm not telling you every wart and pimple that has happened along the way. I'm telling you kind of the big picture story. So this is a very interesting one, Johnson Controls. It's a global corporation. Many of you know Johnson Controls for the building efficiency part, thermostats and that type of thing. That's a very important division. You also may or may not know it because they own, I think it's 80% of the battery market for automobiles in the world. So if you buy a Delco or if you buy a, they own all the batteries. They just privately branded. And then there's a division that is no longer part of Johnson Controls. If you know, they split about a year ago. It's the seating division. So for the large portion of your cars, the seat you sit in was built by Johnson Controls. And you may not think about it, but there's a lot of engineering in a seat. Okay? So this is the engine. This is the seat control, which is now a separate company. But this is the challenge. They're a tier 1 supplier, which means they have very few customers. Think about it. The automotive industry, 10 to 15 customers, bless you, around the world. And if you screw up with one, you can lose a good chunk of money, right? And every customer is very important. And one of the problems is there's the sales side of Johnson Controls, the sales guys and gals, that want to sell product. And then there's the engineering or research development side of Johnson Controls that really wants to create the best product. And the two parties are not always in sync. Salespeople sell something the engineers can't deliver. They're classic. Or engineers don't understand the needs of the market vis-a-vis competitors and sell a product that's not of relevance. Either way, both ways. So Johnson Controls made the decision about 3 years ago to create an internal, this is interesting, an internal collaboration CRM tool. And I went around the world with them and worked on this, whereby if we raised a Toyota, Camry, 2022 car, seats, on a global basis, we could share what's going on with that customer through both the CRM and the collaborative tool of a knowledge management system based on the community, an internal community. And it's a very interesting experiment that really is of great importance to Johnson Controls because of the age of the average worker at Johnson Controls. It's the automotive industry. They're getting older. In this country, AARP, the Association for people like me that are older than 60, they surveyed 1,000 records. 24% of all employers say they're very concerned. 39% are extremely concerned about losing knowledge and critical experience as people retire. So what the community is doing is it's capturing the knowledge while they serve the customer, and it's being captured digitally for the next generation to leverage. The fourth one is Kraft Foods, another great company and a company that I've had a lot of fun doing business with. So here's their challenge. If you went to the General Mills presentation. Okay, so that was B2C. That was General Mills Cheerios versus all the wonderful products they offer. I'm going to go to the B2B side, and that's the food service industry. Those are the products that get delivered to this hotel, or to a ballpark, or to a cafeteria in your building, or to a university, or to a prison. It's the institutional, or what's called the food service business. And in the food service industry, it includes restaurants too, by the way. There are 1 million buyers, they call them operators, points of buying. Restaurant, jail, hotel, whatever. There's 1 million of those in North America. It's a very well-defined market, very well understood. Kraft had this challenge, and some of you may face it in your own business. This is a B to B to C example. They deliver through Cisco, that's with a S. They deliver through Gordon Food. They deliver through U.S. Food Service. They deliver through distributors. They make the product, it's stored by the distributor and sold to the restaurant by the distributor. But the distributor also competes with Kraft, so they may sell Kraft macaroni and cheese to the distributor, but Cisco has their own mac and cheese. Kraft price to the end customer, the restaurant, $21. Cisco's price, $18. Cost to Cisco for the Kraft box, $14, $7 contribution margin. Cost to Cisco for their own product, $8, contribution margin, $10. If you were Cisco, which product would you be pushing? But if you were Kraft, how would you address that issue? You have your distributor that's competing against you. And that's called whole distribution channel management. And the concept is, I'm Kraft and I sell through Cisco and you are a customer, and if I don't know you, and you don't pull the product through the distribution channel, you're going to buy the Cisco product. Because if you and I go into a restaurant, do we know that was Kraft mac and cheese we just ate? Hell no. You with me? So what we decided at Kraft as we formulated the strategy was, if we could get to the heart and mind of those 1 million operators, or some portion of them, 125,000 to be exact, then we could probably better understand their needs and fulfill what they need so they'll pull the Kraft mac and cheese through the distribution channel. How do we do that? That's where the private community came in. We created the Kraftworks community. There were 2 doors into the community. One was for the chefs. Chef-to-chef, peer-to-peer exchange, where we could now talk about what's working when you buy mac and cheese, or how do you divide the cheese up so you can get, at a nursing home in this country, I think $4 is the average price of a meal. How do you stretch $4 to give dear grandma or grandpa a good dinner? Right? Chef to chef talking to each other. How are tastes changing? What have you found to be innovative? And so forth. The chefs love it. And guess who monitors and manages the community? Kraft. And guess what we do? We gather names and understanding, and we go back out to them, because now we've created a direct relationship, not through Cisco, but directly with the end customer. You with me? Same thing with the restaurant owners. It's the second door where restaurant owners talk to restaurant owners about demographic shifts and taste changes and new restaurant operational techniques, and they just love it. So there's 4 examples of how we put social CRM to work. So let me sum this up and open to a discussion. In the first part, I told you that given the staggering speed of digital change, getting your digital strategy right has become essential for every organization's long-term survival, and I meant it. But what I'm saying in this particular part of it is we go down a little bit further, and I also said you can't do it in pieces, because you're siloed, right? That's the concept of the house. But in this piece, as you can see, and that's why I put it in red, a solid CRM is at the core of every successful CRM initiative. You can use all the tools, but if the base of the house, do I have the house here? If the base of the house is not in place, you don't get that benefit. You don't ready yourself for the digital evolution, revolution, transformation, whatever they want to call it. You're just not going to get it. And with that, I think I would like to open this to Q&A or observation. Again, you may or may not agree with me. By the way, I mention this only that we all come up here and hope that maybe some of you might think we actually make sense, and it came to thought of maybe we could work with you, but I would be honored if we could. That's the purpose of the business. And then if you want to contact us, how we go. But let's open it to discussion. I'd like feedback on part 2 and or part 1 if you still have another question, festering in your mind, anything you'd like to raise about CRM, its value to digital strategy or integrated digital strategy. I'll open it to the floor. I do expect some questions. I know you're not. Yes.
I think in the beginning you mentioned about Disney trying to create that emotional connection.
Yes.
I mean, that's easy to say, but it's actually very difficult to do, especially in the digital world. So how do you do that? I know you kind of give some examples through the collective, but to motivate them to do that influence is actually
So the message that has been passed by my fellow Rotarian, so we are Rotarians from the Metro Bethesda Rotary Club. I'm an area governor. I mean assistant governor, area governor, it's true. So Iwa has just raised the question, how do you get the attention of people so they will be digitally connected and emotionally involved? And it's a very good question. So before I answer that, Bill, I'll be momentarily, could somebody else answer it for me? How do you do this? How have you been able to do it? I'll answer, but I want to just get a few opinions. How do you engage digitally and emotionally in a digital world? Yes?
So we haven't done it, but I think that's where ambassadors tend to come in. You know, if you find someone that's a role model that they're already connected to, they can bring people into these groups or into these discussions through invitations.
So ambassadors, good. I think the communities are important. I think what Walt Disney said, it's moments of truth, or what do you call them, moments of wow? He didn't say big wow. He said lots of little wows. Getting the right details correct. And the emotional is also that peer-to-peer exchange. It's very powerful. It's very powerful when kids talk to kids, or lubrication engineers talk to lubrication engineers, or chefs talk to chefs, or we like to talk. And that's emotionally sucks you in. Yes?
So, just a more specific question, but the same thing, says, like with craft, how do they get the chefs and the restaurant owners to engage?
Yeah, so how do you craft get the chefs and restaurants? It's actually pretty straightforward. And there's different incentives you can do as well. But you might say that we're giving away, a free craft box of mac and cheese or something, or we're giving you insight into 3 new ways of using mac and cheese that are not open to the public, and we're not going to put it on Facebook. But if you belong to the community, so for example, ExxonMobil, we launch products first on the Mobile SAC Club before they go to the public. So the engineers are chomping at the bits to go onto the community every day to say, oh, is there a new product that's coming out? I'll do it better than you do, and I'll have it first. So there's different tricks we use. The BMW side, we give away a BMW Q or a t-shirt. Professionally, we have expert advice. We have special people, what do you call them, subject matter experts that show up on the communities that people can go to only on the community and not somewhere else. You just got to figure out what will turn people on. Yes?
But how do you deal with, like, chefs can be competitive. In my business, the customers are competitive. They don't want to share. They don't want to collaborate between them. They're, it's a competitive.
So the question is, how do you deal with people that maybe don't want to be competitive? That's a fallacy. I'm really sorry to say that. I remember, and we'll wrap up in 1 minute, I promise. I remember at ExxonMobil, the executive team said, Mark, are you crazy? We put one distributor on another distributor, the antitrust, and we'll go to jail. And if they talk price, we'll all go to jail. And and this is ExxonMobil, it's really strict. Can I tell you something? We're 2 years into it. You wouldn't believe how distributors talk. Distributors clean, there's rules of the game at the front. You wouldn't believe how many engineers want to talk to engineers, and they forgot about all the stuff you're talking about because they're enjoying discussing with one another. But let's pick it up. I actually have to go. Thank you very much.